Hello everyone, welcome to another collectible unboxing. This will be a pretty interesting unboxing today, as it is my first figure from this company, which is Kaustic Plastik. This is their Bela Lugosi Dracula. This is the exclusive version. So as you can see behind the box here, you've got the two extra pieces there. So on the left you've got the graveyard coffin, and then on the right there you got the luxury magnetic stand, which is only limited to 200. So this whole set here is only 200 around, and if you can just see there, I've got number 3 of 200. So I'm pretty excited that I got a low number. And overall I'm pretty excited for this, as I'm primarily a horror collector, and this really intrigued my interest. And like I said, this is my first Kaustic Plastik figure I have in hand now. I pre-ordered the Nosferatu. I basically got the same limited 200 version on pre-order. So that comes with the diorama door piece. I think it's real magnet and wood. So I'm pretty excited for that. And as you can see here, I'm pretty excited to open this up. So without any more rambling, I'm going to get into unboxing all these. I actually don't know which one to start with. I might just start with the figure first and then unbox the other two stuff behind him. So no more rambling. If you guys do enjoy this, make sure you like and sub, and we'll get to unboxing. Okay, we'll start with the head sculpts, and this is the one that comes on the Bela Lugosi figure itself, and this is the more grimace, evil, sadistic look. I think overall this is fairly good. I think the one little negative I would give is, and let me just throw this lighting a bit like that, is the teeth. As if people don't know, Bela Lugosi painted his teeth black in the movie to give a toothless look, but the figure has kind of kept it where you can see that there's no teeth, if that makes sense. Where I think if they blackwashed in between there to make it look like it's actually not visible, that probably would have passed the look off a bit better. But I think the sculpt and the actual expression that he's giving is really, really nice. And I do think it does look like Bela Lugosi a fair bit, to be honest. The one, actually, come to think of it, and I think it's with both sculpts, I'm not a fan of the seam line here. Hopefully for their Nosferatu and their future figures, they don't do that. They don't do this where you've got the visible line. So yeah, what I'll do now is I'll quickly show some reference pictures of basically this pose. And the reference picture on the side by side here, because of HD and Blu-ray, you can see that he actually has painted his teeth, while back in the 30s when this movie was out, the camera work, obviously the millimeter lenses weren't high def enough to actually see that he's painted his teeth, so it gave that look that it was toothless, kind of like Hellraiser, where in the first Hellraiser movie you can see the engineer strolling on a stroller due to the Blu-ray version, but back in the 80s when that movie came out you couldn't see it. It was pretty flawless. Also Evil Dead, where the blood effect on the Evil Dead 1 and 2 looked really nice back in the 80s, but looking at it now, again with the Blu-ray, it was just, you know, acrylic paint. So that's probably kind of a detriment to time and advanced technology to pinpoint these things that could have been hidden back in the day. But this does look really, really nice, and I'm kind of in a rough spot now of which one to pose with, because I'll put this one down and I'll grab the other one. This is really, really nice too. I would actually say this one looks much more like Bela Lugosi compared to the other one, but I really like the other one's expression. I think this one's done really, really well. Again, another complaint would be the seamless, well, sorry, it has a seam, it's not seamless. The line there, it's a little bit of a complaint. And again, because Kaustic Plastik are fairly new, hopefully they fix this for the future. But yeah, this one really, really looks nice. A bit of an odd decision is they came with obviously neck pegs and neck connectors here, but you have to manually install it. And if you're choosing between which head sculpt to use, there's the slot in the plastic shell, but it's not, you're gonna have to keep taking this off to fit this comfortably in the shell, in the clamp shell, because they didn't design the extra bump here for the neck peg. So if you want to put this one back in the box in that slot, you're going to have to pop this out, which I don't get why they've done that. That's a bit of a weird decision on their behalf. And again, hopefully in the future they fix that, because again, they're fairly new, so they can learn from these a bit of mistakes that they're doing. But side by side here, I mean, I still think they both look pretty good, but I'm kind of stuck on which one to pose with, because this one really looks nice and unique. But this one looks dead on to Bela Lugosi. So this is the accessories here, but I wanted to start off with the more bare bones version. So just the standard Dracula. If you guys are just getting that, this is probably everything you're getting. Now this isn't all of the hands, but this is the more different hand variations that I just chose. You get quite a few. It's just that these are the more like jarringly different ones. So I wanted to just pick these ones basically. But you got really nice ones here. So you got the basically clawed hands here with the accurate ring. And these are really nice. These are a bit sharp too. They're plastic, but they've got a little bit of sharpness to it. These are really nice. So you got that. Then you got the same hand, but with the retracted claws. Again, same detailing, really nice. I would love if Kaustic Plastik do magnet joints instead of the wrist pegs. I saw their Nosferatu, obviously I've pre-ordered that, and the Nosferatu has the magnet elbows, and I assume magnet wrist pegs, so hopefully in the future they continue with that idea, because it's a great idea. And then this is the other hand that does not have the ring. And this is the retracted, more human look. And then the claws out. Let's see if this focuses up a bit. There we go. Really nice. So yeah, hand's pretty much a 10 out of 10 in my opinion. Now this is the candle holder, and it's a dragon style. This is like cotton. It's a nice effect. A lot of people said maybe resin sculpt this, but I think resin would have been a bit risky in shipping, because something this brittle in resin would have just crumbled. So I think cotton portrays the smoke effect a bit better. You got the nice little burnt tip there with a little bit of the candle leaking. It's leaking all the way down as well, so that's really nice. If I was to be a little bit critical, overall I do like this. I would have loved if this was die cast though, this whole candle holder bit, because it's very soft. As you can see there, it's soft plastic, so it's not going to break. But I would have loved if this was die cast. But yeah, coloring's pretty good. It's that oxidized gold. Got a bit of cotton there. But yeah, overall, die cast aside, or the lack of, I still think this is pretty good. And then this is the regular base. So Bela Lugosi's signature there. It's got a nice, tough, almost like plastic that has magnetized parts all around it. So you can choose where to put Dracula basically. And it's basically like Gothic brick style. Regular circular base, pretty nice. And then just the branding and all that at the back. Nice foam pads here to not scratch your detolfs or module cases, so that's really smart on their behalf too. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring the other bases, or not the other base, I'm going to bring the coffin, and then I'll bring the graveyard base, because that's really interesting. So I'll get into that now. Now this is the coffin. This is absolutely hefty and massive as well. So first I'll just open it up. This is polystone, so it's very strong. So it's nice they've given you real hinges there. It would have been insane detail if they gave you the fabric velvet style inside, but it is sculpted. I think it gives the pearl look of the screen used coffin. I think it portrays it pretty well, but I think the fabric would have bring it up that next level. The wood grain here is fine. I think it could have been done a little bit better. Even here, I think maybe a little bit better. It's nice, and it's very thoughtful of them to have put a velvet underlay. And I'll just spin it around, because again, this is a pretty heavy piece. I would not put this in a D12, unless if it's on the bottom shelf, which I may have to put this in the bottom shelf, even with the graveyard display base, probably in the bottom shelf. Just quickly here, just to see the wood grain a bit better. And this part here is actually more of a creative input on Kaustic Plastik's behalf, because this was not part of the movie. I'll bring the screen used coffin, and there's no own like advertisement of this is like his coffin, or he's kind of like promoting himself in this, but no, he didn't have that in the movie. But I still like it, but it's not 100% accurate because it's pretty bare bones in the movie. So again, I'll put this down, and what I'll do now is I'll grab the base that I'm going to most likely use, which is the graveyard one. So I'll get to that now. So this is the graveyard base. Basically the main reason I wanted the exclusive, obviously not just because it's limited and I'm basically a collector of limited stuff. This was a massive draw to me because I loved the concept of kind of like breaking the fourth wall with Bela Lugosi's actual tombstone here, basically, which is kind of fitting because I think a couple of weeks ago his 140th birthday just hit, so this is kind of a nice tie-in to get this now around his birthday. But this was 100% the main reason I wanted this version. But a bit of a weird thing with this, and I was talking to someone a couple of weeks ago about the deluxe version here, and there is a weird pole hole for what I assume a dynamic flight stand pops in there. But if you're not familiar with Kaustic Plastik, their whole gimmick is it's magnetized, which this is magnetized. It's weird that they've given you what seems to be a flight pole stand. Very weird. Overall, I really like this though. Like, I like the tombstone effect here, kind of the moss and the different coloring, the roots here. I think it could be painted a little bit better, but I think it's still fine. I still like it. And you got the Dracula emblem there. And this is not as heavy, well obviously it's not as heavy as the tombstone, the coffin, but it is still heavy. I would be wary to put this in a D12, but I think you would be safe with maybe just having this on the shelf on its own. I wouldn't stack other stuff with it, like for example the future Nosferatu or a potential Christopher Lee Dracula. I wouldn't stack everything in here because this weight is pretty hefty. So you got the back here. Okay, that's nice. It's nice to have actually finished it. And you got the other insignia here of Dracula's emblem. Again, very nice touch here with the felt. I love when companies do the felt. But yeah, it's just very odd that they opted to keep the flight pole whole. I mean, there's nothing in the box for you to pop in there. It would have been, if it was a production problem, and it looks like it is, and they only made 200 of these, so I don't think it would have been that difficult to just pop more of these grass pieces on top. Like you could have just popped that on top, or maybe added, actually what would have been cool if they actually did do the flight stand with bats connected to it, because there's no bats part of this any of the packs. So that would have been nice if there was a clear pole with the bats attached, and then you have Dracula standing here. But yeah, very odd that they kept that hole. And you might have seen this on the side here. This is actually extra shoes that you basically need for the strength of this. So to use only with exclusive diorama for stronger grip. And as you can see, that kind of just shot out of my hand, and you can see it's already pretty strong without me connecting it to the body basically. So this is the way I'm going to go with displaying, because obviously this was the all-out version here. And yeah, what I'm going to do is, oh, okay, they're real laces, holy shit. Nice, I didn't even see that. Did not notice that. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring Dracula out and display him on the circular base, just to show you that you can do it. And then after that, I'll do a little bit of showcase with this and the gravestone and the tombstone. So we'll get to that. So this is Dracula here on the regular base. And as you can see, no crotch grabber. It's magnetized. And this is basically one of the references I got where he's basically hungry in the movie. He's basically got his head down, ready to eat. And yeah, this is definitely the way to go with the future of 1/6 scale. Magnetized shoes and a magnetized base. This is 100% the way to go in the future. You know, you got Kaustic Plastik here, who I think started this idea. And you got InArt soon to follow them as well. And hopefully Hot Toys actually update their product to more modern times. But we can only wait and see, I guess. But yeah, this is pretty much all I'm going to show with this base, because I'm probably going to pack it up and use the gravestone one, because that one is definitely the winner for me. So yeah, just one zoom in one more time. I still really like this head sculpt, but I still see something slightly off, because if I move my light to it, I think it's just maybe the paint is a little bit weird on this one. But there is something slightly off with this one in comparison to the other one. But yeah, that's pretty much it with this base here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take Dracula off, pop the other head sculpt on, and bring the grave base, because again, I think that's the winner here. So we get to that now. So this is the Graveyard Special Edition or Deluxe exclusive. Only 200 of these were made. And I will agree with what some people are saying, where depending on how you pose this figure, it will cover the tombstone here. And you kind of have to juggle around the magnets from shooting left or right. But for the pose I'm going to do, and I'm probably keeping it as this is pretty much the iconic pose that I resonate Bela Lugosi Dracula with, where he's trying to hypnotize the detective. But yeah, overall I really like this. I think this is great, you know. Although there are two complaints I have with the base, is I think it probably should have been a bit wider to accommodate maybe more of a pose and to have more of the tombstone visible if you wanted him dead center, and to get rid of that flight pole. I don't know what that flight pole was there for. Maybe they did want to expand it and have bats behind him with the flight pole. I think that would have been a great idea, but they opted to change something because, again, there was a casted hole there, so I don't get what that hole was. But yeah, what I'm going to do is I might bring him a bit forward, and because it's felt, I can do that with no hassle. So I'll start off with the tailoring and accuracy. Just before I go to comparisons, the clothing was done by G-Wiz Customs, which, for people that don't know, they are one of the best for tailoring in the custom world. They're Christopher Reeve's Superman. They have tailored for Hot Toys is insane. And they've done a shitload of other tailoring. So they get those guys, one of the best to do it. Is amazing because it's basically represented here. I'm eyeing off their Freddy Krueger sweater, pants, and top hat. That looks really nice. But I'm eyeing it off, but I don't know if I'll pull the trigger yet. Just because there hasn't really been a good sculpt and body for Freddy yet. So I'm going to have just clothes with no good figure, if that makes sense. Bayo and Matali done great work, but you know, they're a gold mine to find, especially at a decent price. But yeah, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you the accuracy of the clothing, and this is pretty dead on, you know, spot on from the actual film. Although there is one missing part, but it is excusable because it's a licensing problem, which is the medallion that he wears in the London scene, I believe. He's got a ribbon medallion, and because it's a universal problem, they don't want to really give the rights to Bela Lugosi's Dracula or any of the Universal monsters. So this is technically Bela Lugosi as Dracula as the stage performance, not as the 1931 film. So yeah, that's probably, well, that is the difference of why that medallion isn't part of this figure, because that's Universal license and they're pretty strict with their properties. But yeah, regular tucks here. I'll quickly go down to the pants. I mean, they're just pleats, to be honest. I mean, you can't really go inaccurate with that. And then you got the shoes with the real laces. This isn't fabric or leather. They're plastic, as they need to be plastic to have the magnets. And mind you, they're very strong magnets, so I don't have a problem with the magnets holding up. Obviously, magnets will never wear out. It's more the ankles that I'm worried about. So far, they're really strong. And these are the swap out ones, as you saw before, because these ones are much stronger to connect to this base, while the other ones are, they're still very strong, but they're compatible for the circular base, not for this one. But the ankle joints are something that I worry about, just because over time ankle joints do loosen. So I may have to swap this body, you know, maybe 4 or 5 years, who knows. Or maybe it does hold up. But yeah, that's pretty much it with pose wise, as I'm probably going to keep it like this. I'm not going to articulate him because, again, this is my first Kaustic Plastik figure, so I don't really know how far I can push them. But just a really quick description of the articulation is it's regular double joints, elbows, knees. I think it's got ratchet joints in the actual shoulders, which is really nice. Regular crunch and all that, but again, I don't really push my figures to articulate them. And you know, other reviewers have articulated figures to hell, so you know, you can hop on some other guys and they'll really get in depth with the posing. But yeah, before my final thoughts, I'm gonna bring one more figure that is vampire related and do a quick comparison. So just quickly, we got the Vampire and the Vampire Hunter. You know, one of my favorite Marvel characters. Well, he is my favorite Marvel character, Blade. And I thought this was really nice as a comparison here. There is a bit of a height difference between the two from what I've seen, and from another couple of other figures I've seen with other reviewers like Dean Knight who done comparisons with his other horror collection. There seems to be a height problem with Bela Lugosi in particular, because I've seen Kaustic Plastik's other stuff and they seem to be in scale. It seems like this one has a shorter body for some reason. I don't really get it, but the additional height is with the tombstone base, so it does give the illusion that they're level, because Bela Lugosi is like 6'1", 6'2". Wesley Snipes, for example, I think is running around 6 foot. And, I mean, look at the base difference there. So, there seems to be a height problem. So what I'll do now is I get rid of the Daywalker here and get into my final thoughts. So my final thoughts are, this is pretty much what I've been asking for a while in the 1/6 scale community, is for companies to finally dive into some classic horror. And I think overall, this is pretty much a home run. I think with a little bit of maybe updates, so to say, with some of Kaustic Plastik's choices overall, they can be great in the future. And going by their Nosferatu, I think that's the step in the better direction. Not saying this is bad, but I feel that Nosferatu's updates, for example, the magnetic wrist pegs and so forth, will make Kaustic Plastik a company that will be printed on the map, basically. Because they are advancing quicker than other companies, and I do feel they will be a powerhouse in the future. And hopefully we get more horror icons, you know. I would really love a Christopher Lee Dracula, so I can have 3 of my favorite Draculas in the D12, which will be Bela, Christopher Lee, and a Nosferatu. Hopefully, like I said in my collector discussions, hopefully we get a Freddy. I would love a Freddy from these guys. I think these guys can nail a Freddy because it looks like they love the horror property. But yeah, overall, I really like this. And yeah, that's pretty much it for today. So if you guys did enjoy this, make sure you like and sub. And I'll see you in the next one.